Hello, I just finished watching a movie entitled Hercules, or as it is known in some circles, the best Hercules movie ever. Upon watching this movie, I decided I would review it. However, instead of going about the typical review style, I thought I would do a critical analysis on the people who will also be watching this movie at some point in time, as well as the impact and effect it will have on their daily lives. Let's get started. This movie will be watched by its executive producer, Ron Layton. About a week later, he will disappear, and his body will never be found. This movie will be watched by every overprotective soccer mom who needs to pre-screen everything she shows to her child, but is too cheap to buy anything that doesn't come from the local dollar store. The child themselves will never actually end up seeing this movie due to their mother's sudden onset drinking problem. This movie will be watched by Danny DeVito during his phase where he's curious as to what he'll look like with blonde hair. He will decide against it. This movie will be watched by anyone with a learning disability, because the dialogue comes out so delayed compared to the on-screen lip-syncing that they will have time to catch up and understand the plot.
You mean they're gonna like him better than Hercules?
This movie is going to be watched by Big Dick Slade, former preacher turned illustrious porn star. When interviewed as to why he made the switch, he will say that upon viewing this film, he realized there is no God and needed to take up a more hedonistic profession. This movie will also be watched by Diedrich Bader, as when he is cast in the upcoming live-action adaptation as the King, he will need to know his motivation. This movie will also be watched by Ray Kurzweil, the inventor of text-to-speech, as he will want to see his invention meshed into animation firsthand.
No, Hercules. You need to wait until you're introduced.
I don't think that's necessary.
This movie will be watched by anyone who suffers from Alzheimer's disease, because the animation repeats often enough that they'll be able to get the full experience of the movie. This movie will be watched by an eccentric billionaire who no longer feels the pleasures of the meager reality of life. He will proceed to give away his entire fortune after realizing that nothing will impact his soul any harder than Hercules' smug-ass grin. This movie will be watched by every animator at Pixar Studios as a punishment for having a relatively unproductive year. When their corporate office threatens to force them to have to work on films similar to this one, their production will rise by over 240%. This movie will be watched by anyone who ever owned a Furby in their lifetime, because fuck you, you deserve it. This movie will be watched by the National Preservation and Historic Society for Awkward Pauses, because it's a goldmine of opportunities for them.
It was silly, really, especially considering she doesn't want to marry either one of us. But what's important?
This movie will be watched by Ray Charles's ghost, because with his blindness, this movie will create plenty of pornography substitutes for him.
Look.
This movie will be watched by Tomoyuki Tanaka, because he will be astounded to find out that there is somehow worse dubbing than his Godzilla movies in this universe.
Now you'll find how it feels to be the weak one.
This movie will continue to be haunted by Ray Charles's ghost because the ragtime jazz soundtrack is incredible. This movie will be watched by Kleben Zeebarp of Kumalan 3, because he is allergic to any form of human emotion and finds this movie palpable.
I destroyed the city of thieves?
Yes, I'm afraid so.
By the gods in heaven, how could I?
This movie will be watched by fans of early 90s CGI cartoons, such as Reboot and Butt Ugly Martians, because fucking what? This movie will be watched by Steven Spielberg as he prepares to sue the film company for ripping off Jaws. Ray Charles's spirit will once again find reason to materialize from the afterlife because he had to get one last good jerk session out of his system. This movie will be watched by many up-and-coming psychopaths that are questioning their choices in life, as they will be able to relate to Hercules as a character.
4 tons of attitude with tusks so sharp, they'll slice through rock.
Should I kill it?
This movie will be watched by an ailing and desperately sick heroin addict as he clings to the last bits of life in his reclining chair after having left his Netflix stream on. Upon viewing this movie, he'll finally get a dose of reality that he desperately needed and check himself into a treatment center to try and turn things around. This movie will be watched by the zombified corpse of Groucho Marx, the master of sarcasm, to confirm that his decision to roll over in his grave was the correct one.
And you must be the mighty Hercules. I think he's a Cyclops.
This movie will be watched by every fan of the manga Cyclops Shoujo Saipu, because it has very romantic scenes with a Cyclops.
You're one good-looking Cyclops. Really? Oh, yeah? Yes.
This movie will be watched by Optimus Prime, because he just found a new candidate for the Autobots. This movie will be watched by legendary soldier John Rambo, because no matter how much shit he sees, he will manage to keep his cool.
Oh, shut up, you silly ball of snot. Stop picking on him! Let's go home.
This movie will be watched by the physical embodiment of low budgets, just for fun. This movie will be watched by Emperor Palpatine of Star Wars, because this joke is really obvious. This movie will be watched by music composer Simon Mulligan as he finally realizes the pun on what he should have actually done with the soundtrack in this movie. This movie will be watched by Hercules himself, so he can pat Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson on the back and say, "You thought you were bad?" And finally, this movie will be watched by me, so that finally, when it's all over, I can call it a piece of shit!